YouTube. My name is Elizabeth. Welcome or welcome back to my channel, Book as in Books, and welcome to this last installment of my ultimate Jane Austen ranking video. And in this one, I finally reveal my rankings of Jane Austen's novels. Now I will start with the ranking, the result of my grid. I forgot to show you. I wanted to show you at the end of each video, but I kept forgetting. I think I did for just one. And I did add up all these numbers, and the results are in. And according to that grid, my least favorite novel at 40 points is Northanger Abbey. According to my criteria, it did not make the top 3 a single time. It was systematically ranked at number 4 or number 6, most often number 6. So unsurprisingly, it is at the bottom according to that grid. And then the second lowest ranked was Mansfield Park, which is a bit surprising because it did make the top 3 a few times, and it even made it to number 1 for one criteria. So it's a bit surprising to see it this low, or is it? So it is so with 33 points, so quite above Northanger Abbey. And then for number 4 and number 3, there's an equality. 2 books ended up with 30 points each, and these are Persuasion and Emma. So both of them ended up at 30 points each. Am I surprised to see them in the middle of the pack? Perhaps a little bit, but not necessarily. And then at number 2, Sense and Sensibility with 24 points. So a big 6 points ahead of the other, of Persuasion and Emma. And then, unsurprisingly perhaps, at number 1 is Pride and Prejudice, because according to my grid, it ended up at position number 1 or number 2. It never went any lower than that. And it even got number 1 for 5 of the 8 criteria that I used. So am I surprised that it's at number 1 according to that grid? Absolutely not. Now, the real surprising thing, or maybe not, I don't know, is how the grid compares, the results of the grid compares to the actual results, to my actual true ranking of Jane Austen's novels. Because this is the true ranking. This is what I truly think of them, my favorite to my least favorite. And I don't think I want to show you the card right away. I'm going to show you the card to prove to you that I'm not just trying to be contrary to the grid. So, my least favorite Jane Austen novel is Northanger Abbey. The grid was right. It is my least favorite. I think it's a debut novel. It is full of good intentions, but it is not quite there yet. I think Catherine Morland is more or less interesting, and I think the writing is not there yet. The humor of Jane Austen is not there yet. The wit is not quite there yet. There's a whole bunch of things that is not quite there yet. So I reread it. I don't know if I'm going to reread it very often because it's not my favorite, and it's by quite a bit. To me, it stands quite a bit lower than the other 5. At number 5, according to the grid, it should be Mansfield Park, but according to me, it's Emma. Emma that ranked quite high, and I did rank it quite high in quite a few criteria because it is a funny novel and it is well plotted. However, there are things that I don't like about the novel. Mainly Emma. I don't like the character of Emma. She's very selfish and I don't really enjoy reading about her. But there's another thing that I like even less about Emma, and it wasn't anywhere in my grid of criteria because I didn't know where to put that. It is the fact that the main moral, I guess, of the story is that people should not try to marry out of their rank. People should remain where society says they should be. And yeah, it's about putting people back in their place. So it's about making sure that Harriet doesn't rise. It's about putting Harriet back in her place. It's about making sure that Mr. Elton doesn't rise by marrying Emma. It's about putting Mr. Elton back in his place. And it is about putting people back in their place. So it's for that, it really bothered me, the snobbery, the obsession with social rank, and yeah, there's also this somewhat icky thing with Mr. Knightley shaping Emma to his taste and something like that. So there's quite a few things that make it less interesting, and it's quite long. So I don't know how pleasurable it would be to reread this. knowing, I don't know, if I would have to reread it, and perhaps upon rereading the ranking would change, but it was not my favorite. I did not enjoy the reread that much, even though there are plenty of funny moments. I can recognize that, and I can recognize that it's well done, but I simply am not enjoying it. Okay, so according to the grid, the next one should be, well, it should have been Emma, but I put at number 4 Mansfield Park. I love Fanny Price. I think she's a great heroine. I love the atmosphere of Mansfield Park, but at the same time, I think it's just so long, and it is so serious that there's not a lot of moment of release in there, I guess. There's some sort of tension going on all the way throughout the book. And I don't like how mean Mrs. Norris is to Fanny Price, and not just Mrs. Norris. I mean, the 2 Bertram sisters are not very nice to Fanny Price. And I don't like either when the Crawfords are trying to manipulate Fanny Price into marrying Henry Crawford. I don't like manipulation by older, wiser character. In this case, not so much that they're older, but they are more sophisticated than perhaps not naive, but inexperienced Fanny Price, who has spent half of her life in Mansfield Park and half of her life in Portsmouth, in society where she wouldn't be in the presence of society such as the Crawfords. So for these reasons, I put it at number 4. At number 3, a novel that grows while I'm not reading it. It's Sense and Sensibility. I like the characters of Sense and Sensibility. I like the villains of Sense and Sensibility. I like the villains. I like Willoughby. I like the Steele sisters. I like Fanny Dashwood. So the little characters, if I can call them that, are almost as interesting as the main characters. And the characters of Eleanor and Marianne Dashwood together are very interesting. I think they're quite nice. Now, there's a bit of a pacing problem, I think, with the Sense and Sensibility, because I remember when I read it, I found it a bit disappointing. I couldn't really say why, but there was something a bit of a disappointment, and with hindsight, I think it was a pacing problem. I think some scenes were too long. I think some things that happen behind the scenes should happen on the scene, on the page. So there's a bit of the execution perhaps is not as great as it could have been had Sense and Sensibility, the same plot lines with the same characters, had it been written a few years later, had it been written after Pride and Prejudice and Emma, perhaps Sense and Sensibility would have been even better than Pride and Prejudice. But at the moment where it was written, I think Jane Austen still lacked a bit of experience. So there's the plot line is fascinating, and the characters are very interesting, but there's a little something that is missing. So it's at number 3. At number 2, which according to my grid should be at number 4 or 3, is Persuasion. Now, of course, this is the more mature novel of Jane Austen. The main character, Anne Elliot, is 27 years old. And it's a second chance novel, I guess. It's the mother of all second chance novels. Captain Wentworth and Anne fell in love years earlier. It didn't pan out because Anne decided to follow the advice of her friend Lady Russell, and even 8 years later she thinks that she followed the advice, that following the advice that she was given was the right thing to do. So I think the themes in Persuasion are perhaps a bit more subtle than the themes in, let's say, Sense and Sensibility or in Emma, but they are there, and I like the atmosphere of Persuasion. Yeah, there's a lot of things that I like about it. So it's at number 2. And at number 1, unsurprisingly, Pride and Prejudice. What a great novel. Every character is memorable. There are tons of memorable scenes in there. And it's so well written. The tone of the book is just so funny from A to Z. I don't think there's a single chapter where you don't smile. Well, at least where I don't smile in Pride and Prejudice. And in some chapters, it's just laugh out loud. I giggle out loud while I'm reading. So this is not a book to be read on public transportation. Oh, well, unless Sometimes I don't mind laughing out loud in public. So yeah, this is my absolute favorite novel. I love Elizabeth Bennet. If you go to the previous video about the heroes, you know that Mr. Darcy is not necessarily my favorite hero, but I think he is well suited to Elizabeth. And of course, Pemberley is just wonderful. It's a wonderful place where to live. And there's so many great things about Pride and Prejudice. And yeah, it's funny. I think I could talk about Pride and Prejudice almost infinitely, but at the same time, I have nothing else to say about it except that I really, really love it. So yes, to avoid this video becoming too long, I'm just going to say that I really like it. And if you want to know why, watch the previous videos of this series where Pride and Prejudice always makes the top 2 and generally ends up at the first place. So I just love this book. And I forgot to show you the card to prove to you that the ranking was done before I started filling the grid. So here is the envelope, and here is the card coming out of the envelope, and that's my ranking. As I said, 1 Pride and Prejudice, 2 Persuasion, 3 Sensibility, 4 Mansfield Park, 5 Emma, and 6 Northanger Abbey. I was honest. And that's it. That's the end of my ranking of Jane Austen's novels. Let me know in the comment, what is your ranking of Jane Austen's novels in general? And let me know, did I miss something in my series? Was there an aspect that I should have ranked and that I did not? There was one issue that I thought could be interesting, and it was the social commentary, because in every Jane Austen novel, there is a social commentary. But I thought that to truly rank this, I should have paid more attention to it. It's not something that appears on first reading or even second reading. It's something you really have to pay attention to, and I cannot say that I read the novels while paying attention to the social issues. So I did not feel comfortable just ranking the novels according to social commentary, but that is something that could have been ranked. But other than that, did I miss something? Should I have ranked the parents perhaps, because there are no orphans in Jane Austen? So perhaps I could have ranked the parents, or well, I could not rank the neighbors. Is there anything else I should have ranked? The writing? I know that between, let's say, Northanger Abbey and Pride and Prejudice, there's a lot of Jane Austen improved a lot. There was a lot of improvement. But between Pride and Prejudice and Emma and Persuasion, I don't know if I could really rank the writing of Jane Austen, how witty it is and something like that, or how clever or how well written, and I don't think I could rank that. So I think I ranked all the elements that I felt comfortable ranking. But if I forgot anything, let me know in the comments, and maybe I will add another video, because it's fun to rank Jane Austen's novels. So thank you everyone for watching, particularly if you have stayed for the entire series. I will see you in the next video, which may or may not be about Jane Austen. Alla prochaine!